Welcome to the Mo podcast.
A place where individual stories come to life.
This is how we need to be communicating with people. This is how we support people's personal development.
It's important to speak about people believing in people.
The more you're able to let go of your limitation, the more you step into your power, your inner authentic power.
Mo, a place for me, others, everyone.
Welcome, Amelia, to the Mo Pod Ventures. We're so happy to have you here.
Really, really lovely to be here with you, Alex.
Awesome. This is Amelia Parisian, everybody. And Amelia, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you like to go through life. A personal introduction without referencing, job title, other people, numbers. How do you like to live your life?
Oh, that's such a good question. How do I like to move through life? Well, I like to move through life like it is a magical, epic adventure, and really strive to move the stress and struggles away so that I can keep on enjoying each day anew with softness and appreciation and gratitude and care and love. It's not always possible, but that's what I try to do. I live in Somerset. I have a 10-year-old son. I live surrounded by forests and friends. So I am incredibly blessed to have arrived at this point in my life with all these things.
Nice, thank you. And then give us an overview of everything that you do in your life that you feel is work.
Okay, great. So at the moment, recently I became a director for a CIC called Letters to the Earth, which is about mainstreaming connection to nature through creative experiences and direct connection to nature, including also writing letters to the earth and to nature. The idea being that we need to change our idea of seeing nature away from being this thing or resource to be used towards it being an animate, living part of life, part of us. We are part of it. So Letters to the Earth, I do bits of work for them. I direct the programs for them some of the time. So I'm doing some of that. I also run the programs for an organization called Craig Bureau Business Decelerator, and work in Scotland and across Europe with often corporates or big non-profits, often with purpose or sustainability teams, and often around leadership, innovation, creativity, shifting systems, looking at how they could be doing things differently, helping them to connect to themselves, each other, and then to figure out how to change the system that they're embedded within. Often people who consider themselves intrapreneurs or change makers from within systems. So that's another component of what I'm up to. And then the third piece is really building up my one-to-one work at the moment, which is really exciting and fun. And I'm calling that coaching and guiding for luminaries.
Luminaries.
Do you know what a luminary is, Alex?
Someone who's like bringing light to things, or who's shining light on things, or who's radiant. No,
That's really...
no,
that's really good. No, that's really good. Like the sun or the moon, and a light-giving body, but also someone of influence and someone who is in some way having a big impact. So yeah, people who are out there doing really interesting and widespread work and projects.
Nice. And using that word to me makes it feel like you're getting away from, some people might describe it as leadership coaching or coaching leaders, and using a different word maybe helps us let go of or broaden our idea of what makes someone important or in a leadership figure. If we don't use the term leader, but we're still talking about that, like shining a light or influence, it maybe allows us, might allow some people to engage with your coaching, but might feel like they aren't leaders.
Yeah, exactly. Because some people have a story around not being a leader, but actually they are maybe continuously hosting community events, or they always have an open home. Someone that I've helped quite a bit always has their door open to
Mm.
other people's kids and teenagers and other people in need. They've always got a door open, and that's someone I've worked with, and I would consider them that, because they're actively trying to lift people around them and
Mhm.
make life better for others, even if they would consider it quite small or not worthy, or not having a huge influence. Actually, it's making a big impact in quite a lot of people's lives.
No.
Absolutely. So it's not just this idea of leaders. It's people who either really are already having quite a big impact or influence, or they want to,
Hmm.
and they're ready to start doing that.
Great. And that's the portfolio career. Is there more?
At the moment, that's mostly it. Yeah, there's quite a lot that comes into the one-to-one thing, and I've
Yeah.
got lots of other ideas brewing. But they're the kind of main active parts at the moment.
Brilliant. And I just want to acknowledge as well the full-time work you do as a parent, and shout out to all the parents who do so much for the next generation of people. And there's so much beautiful hard work there.
Thanks, Alex.
Um, Amazing. What an exciting portfolio career for us to touch on today. And thinking in that there'll be things that you can't change, but what conscious decisions have you made or do you make about how you structure your work week?
Good question. Well, I've kind of recently consciously decided to shift things away from traveling often once a month, sometimes twice a month, to work. And this is one reason that I'm building up more one-to-one work. There's actually quite a few reasons. I guess I've got to a point, I'm calling it my cozy era. I've got to the point where I need to have a cozy era. I need to stop
Mm.
doing work that so requires so much of me, particularly logistically. An organizationally, often these programs would be very multifaceted, with lots of different stakeholders, lots of different clients, different venues, different contributors, and they just used a lot of me. And as a single parent, it just wasn't feeling sustainable, and I wanted to simplify things a bit. And I'm just loving how I can do many of the same things I do in a big program, actually, with an individual.
Hmm.
So I guess how I'm structuring my life and week at the moment is going away less and doing. So I've got a day a week on a kind of a retainer with this Letters to the Earth at the moment, and then the rest of the time I'm building up my coaching work. And I also like to go on walks. I like to have long lunch breaks. I like to have
Mm.
time to write and learn and get new ideas. When I'm working with someone, I do quite a lot of cooking up ideas and need space
Yeah.
for that, for the inspiration for these things to come through.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work for me to have a constant sort of laptop reality if I'm going to do my best work
Hmm.
with groups or individuals.
Yeah,
So
great.
quite spacious,
Nice. And
when possible.
good caveat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love getting into the details of co coaches weeks, and talking about needing space or doing going on walks or having like idea time. Are there any things that you've set consciously? Are you leaving it fully spontaneous in your week? Are you saying I stop working at this time? Are there certain days that you don't work? Are there any details like that that you have set or given yourself a boundary or some structure to work within?
Good question. I'm constantly in a conversation between the structured part of myself and the one who wants to be spontaneous.
Mm.
And there's often a tension there, or I go between these two things.
Hmm.
So, actually, an intention for this September is to kind of rethink some sort of balance between the need to be spontaneous and kind of in flow, as you might say, compared to having a structure that means I can kind of relax and be productive and know what's happening. So I'm exploring this. I've been reading Atomic Habits and I've been seeing if I can learn some new systems for bringing in routine and kind of habits that will, I guess I like this idea that you can make a choice now in your daily habit, like life, that will in 6 months mean you know a whole new skill, or you've like developed yourself massively, incrementally. So I'm quite captivated by this idea, and I'm playing with it.
Nice. And if I was to put you on a spot and say, what's one thing you might learn that in 6 months' time would be quite different in your life, what could it be?
Okay, I guess it's actually an unlearning, and that looks like unlearning, filling my life up with so many things that I become overwhelmed. And usually they're really great things. I'm a time optimist and I'm very sociable. So
A time optimist. I've never heard that and I love it.
No, you're not. It's yours. You can take that.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's actually unlearning the habit of saying yes to all of these exciting opportunities all the time. Like last week was an epitome of this, where I had such an exciting work week, and I said yes to multiple different wonderful opportunities that became very difficult because it was too much for me. So it's somehow learning to make my decisions not from a place of kind of excitement and tension, but decisions that are going to bring a peace and an ease to things instead. And so I guess in 6 months, maybe I would like to be better at making decisions, having practiced consciously to shift the way I'm operating. Yeah.
Saying yes to peace and ease.
Saying yes to peace and ease and stability. Yeah.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. So that's why I'm practicing.
Nice. I want to jump us back to one of the groups or companies that you said you work for. You mentioned it was a business decelerator.
Yeah.
Often we hear about business accelerators or incubators. Could you say a few words about where this company, this organization, where this organization is a decelerator and what that means to work with or in or how?
Sure. Yes. So, like you said, the idea is rather than an accelerator, it's a decelerator, and the way that we're doing things in the world isn't sustainable, and it's not working, particularly in business. And this kind of acceleration of like more stuff, more, faster, of modernity is just awful, and it's damaging humanity and it's damaging the planet very quickly. And so we do need to slow down. But the idea of the decelerator is that in order to change the systems and structures and slow down the way that we're doing things, to create new ways, is that we have to start with ourselves. So the programs would really bring in that idea of we have to decelerate within in order to create the space for rethinking the systems and structures and ways that we're operating and working in the world.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of ethos behind it. And it was, those programs are anything from an away day for an organization to like 4 days in Scotland, spending time outside on the land, spending time doing Scottish ceilidhs, or foraging and doing art and all kinds of things. The pillars were or are still nature, nurture, creativity, and community. So they were they're the four pillars of the kind of curriculum, I suppose. And The idea being really is that it would give people a chance to slow down and remember what really matters. So connect to the deeper their deeper values,
Yeah.
because often there's this disconnect between maybe the values someone might have in their home life compared to the values the organization are holding. So
Yep.
the organization might be holding profit and success and, you know, the hierarchy and the competition side or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh yeah, this is what really matters. Okay, this is what needs to be centered.
Yeah.
Like care, community, the natural world. Oh, like, oh wow, I remember how incredible the forest is. Like, wow. And then it brings that feeling towards nature. And then that feeling leads to the next time I'm in the boardroom, maybe me thinking, wow, this decision we're making around our packaging or our supply chain or whatever, wow, maybe they're connected. Maybe the
Mm-hmm.
things we're doing are connected to the forest because of what humanity's doing to nature. You know, so it's that joining the dots through lived experience and through slowing down enough to feel and center
Yeah.
values again.
Amazing. And yeah, I've heard you speak about this work before, and for me, there's that direct link of like the impact this work we're doing as our company is having on this natural world, which we want to preserve, and then also maybe a slightly more nuanced consideration of like how decisions are made when we have an appreciation for what it feels like to walk in a stream barefoot, or to to feel the wind on our face while we're lying on a hillside, and how we'll make decisions in a slightly different, more grounded way that are in keeping, with these deeper values, with this connection to our kind of like our deeper self, without without a kind of transactional view of this is the impact it will have on the environment, but that more grounded, deeper connection when we're making decisions from that place, it will also work in that direction of benefiting the world beyond just ourselves.
There's a wonderful quote I heard a while ago. In order to change the environment, or in order to save nature, we need to connect more deeply to our own humanity. Right? So it's actually our human values that are going to help us sort out the natural world.
Yeah. And there was a really beautiful symmetry that struck me when you were talking about the decelerator and slowing down, and of what you were saying about your own life and this habit of being a time optimist and changes you might make there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's that absolute classic where we often choose roles in life or a purpose in life that's so closely linked to our own healing or our own growth, right?
Yeah. This is the journey I need to be on.
Don't we all know?
Right. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such an interesting concept that it rings true for me in my life as well, that we choose the things, not that are the work we need to be doing with ourselves as well.
Yeah. I mean, we need to make sure we're far enough ahead. We need to make sure we're enough steps ahead of the people we're working with, that we know what we're doing still. And if I look at my life and I'm complaining, not complaining, but I'm talking about the ways that I go too fast or do too many things. If I talk to the people I work with, it's a whole other ballpark. So
yeah,
like I describe my life to them and they think I have all the deceleration in the world.
Yeah, and it's scaffolding. Like, for me, this is where this topic comes up, or how it manifests, and for you, it's really different. And we're both kind of trying to walk the same path at different points on it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
And this work with Letters to Earth with the Decelerator sounds quite a lot like some training, some workshopping, some people systems or kind of culture systems. Is that right? Have I got anything wrong there, or is there anything kind of as well as that?
No, so both of those two organizations run everything from short hour and a half workshops to 1 day workshops to 3 or 4 day immersions, both bespoke and also kind of in-house open programs. So there's a similarity there. Letters to the Earth's also running more sort of online campaign-based work as well, trying to engage people through the arts in a shared love of nature. It's so often it's actually one thing we do all share, and even people who don't consider themselves environmentalists or activists, you actually get them to start talking about somewhere they liked in nature as a kid, or somewhere they love in nature, and suddenly they're all smiling and having fond memories and gathered around this shared care.
Yeah, I've never considered that that's something that unites every single human, like some connection to nature or appreciation or ability to appreciate.
Yes, it's in there. Even if it's, I was talking to someone who lived in Dubai, and they said what they loved was the starry desert skies. They might not have as much wild nature or like a lush green nature as here, but they still have big expansive deserts and skies.
Yeah, it's connection to the earth, and in this case, like the more than earth, like the wider universe, the stars. Wow, that's a big thought. And thinking of like, workshops, training, culture work, would you share where you feel coaching and coaching skill sets inform that work?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, being a coach, I actually grew up with my mother also being a life coach. So by the time I did Mo, I'd already actually learned quite a lot through books and through talking and through my own facilitation work.
Yeah, and her modeling interaction with her, I bet. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, it kind of runs through everything that I've done and I'm doing. So something you and I were talking about before, Alex, this idea of human development. And it's interesting how maybe in the last 10, 20 years, this kind of personal development world or the language has come through, right? It's kind of, there's been this arising of a different sort of language. And you talk to some people now here who haven't been involved in that language and hear the language that we're using, whether it's like holding space or personal growth or what all of these words, they're kind of like still scratching their head, but actually it has been mainstreamed. It's all over social media, it's in media, it's in organizational culture, this kind of well-being culture. It's come through, right?
And I just want to pause and say like, oh wow, so you're telling me my skill set isn't niche, or you're telling me that I can be unashamed, or like I don't need to worry about people not getting like coaching. Like there's still something in me that's like, yeah, not everyone knows about coaching or understands it or appreciates its benefit. And when you're talking about it being mainstream like that, there was this like, wow, maybe I can be more out about my coaching, or maybe I can be more like, maybe I can change how much I'm assuming people understand or will love about coaching.
Yeah. I mean, it's time. I think it is permeating everywhere bit by bit. It's permeating education as well now.
Yeah.
So it is changing. But I think that's amazing. And we were speaking before about kind of human development through history almost, and how I guess at least there's an imagining, and I can't really know, but there's an imagining that kind of once upon a time in these lands particularly, we had a different kind of community structure, and within those community structures there might have been particular roles for maybe elders, older people in the community who would be very much more available to the young people to come and bring their challenges, and those people would be actively mentoring the young people, right? Asking them questions, asking them, in some of the kind of nature culture work I do in communities, there's this idea of cultivating curiosity through questioning, and particularly in relation to nature. So a child might bring a feather, and they might say, "What's this?" And instead of saying, oh, it's a feather, the mentor would say, well, where did you find it? And what was around it? And what colors can you see in it? And what other birds have you seen that have got similar colors? And how big do you think the bird might be? And so it's really cultivating that kind of alive curiosity in a young person, right? And so, that particular community and school of thought are trying to consciously bring in something that, as our current society isn't really consciously doing. So very often if a kid brings a thing, it's like, oh, that's because of that. Or it's like, oh, let's just ask Google, right? Let's just ask Google. Let's just find the answer on Google. So yeah, that questioning, I imagine, in many indigenous cultures would have been just a part of the society or village. And obviously it's not really just a part of things now. But I would say that with this influx of this personal development, personal growth, coaching culture, learning the art of questioning, learning this art of like making a space for someone to explore and get curious about themselves, their lives, the possibilities that are available to them, who they could become. It's a similar thing. It's a similar impetus. So there's a real magic in that's coming through in a kind of new way, in a new language, becoming more mainstream. For a long time, I think there's a good while where it would have been shocking to talk about your deepest feelings at the dinner table, or to ask a child how I don't know how they're feeling about something to do with the family dynamic or something. It would have just been unheard of to talk like that. So it's interesting, this, I guess, these kind of ebbs and flows in how we relate over history.
And bringing that back to thinking about the work you're doing with these two companies and coaching, being a part of that. I hear what you're talking about, stimulating curiosity and using a coaching approach to help people find their own lives and be their own leaders, as how coaching relates to that work. Is that on the money, or is that where your thoughts lie with that as well?
Yes. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think to be any sort of well-rounded leader, there has to be that curiosity both on what's happening in the outside world, but also what's happening on the inside world. So by a leader having a coach or being coached, they're learning how to do that for themselves, ideally, apply that kind of introspection, or if you look at kind of archetypes, which I quite like to play with, these like an archetype being like almost like a storytelling blueprint for something. So an archetype I could use would be like a sovereign, a king or queen or benign sovereign, who is the one who is able to look at the whole lay of the land, is able to look at all of the different components of one's life and say, okay, here's the children, here's the family, here's the system, here's my flaws and faults, here's how I'm trying to grow. So this one who can survey the whole area. And so by having a coach and working with a coach, you're building the ability to have that wide angle view on the whole landscape of one's life.
Yeah, stepping back, reflecting.
Parts. Exactly.
Yeah. And which came first to you, the coaching or group work?
Group work. I mean, I was taking kids kayaking when I was 16. I was taking kids kayaking and canoeing, and my first career was in the outdoor industry. And so, yeah, I was taking executives up mountains and through bogs and down fields on rafts made of barrels, and that was actually my first dipping my foot into leadership work, because these companies. We had Kellogg's, I remember, and the company I worked for realized I could had an imagination, and they would make me create a narrative around cereal for the whole day. So I'd have to work out how the practical activities would link to their both to the leadership elements, or hierarchies, or we'd get things like the leader had to follow instead of leading, and then make every different activity into a different cereal, or
thinking in metaphors, using models to help people see a different perspective. It's coaching. Yeah.
It's coaching, exactly. So, but it was with groups before individuals. Yeah.
Yeah. And on the Mo course, we teach people this diverse, rich coaching skill set, and we also talk a lot about how to use that in a one-to-one setting. What do you feel are the best routes to go from having this coaching skill set that you might have been trained in, mostly thinking of it in a one-to-one way, to get into that facilitation work or group work or training work?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I didn't go that way from doing a Mo, like a coaching course, and then want to build the facilitation. But I wonder if a natural progression could be to start with one-to-one and then build it up to being like, oh, I'm going to do something with 4 people. Recently, I've been experimenting with this, with doing small group work. And actually, you can keep the same quality of the coaching more easily when it's maybe 4 people that you're coaching one-to-one, and then you bring them together.
Yeah.
Because I think the biggest, not problem, but maybe something you're not going to get from one-to-one work is this kind of, I guess you could call it healing. There's certain kinds of learning and growth that happen relationally. And yes, one-to-one is a relational dynamic and it's important, but when you've got 3 or 4 or 5 people who are listening to you and then somehow reflecting back your value, your worth, what they appreciate about you, what they see in you, there's this incredible thing that happens, especially in a culture that doesn't honor people intrinsically very well. Often people have very low self-worth, actually. So then to have these moments where these people on quite a deep level are saying, wow, you're incredible, Alex. You have so many facets. Have you noticed how good you are at appreciating people? This is actually true, Alex.
Thank you. Okay, so in that setting, so let's say you and I were to work on like that idea of self-worth on a one-to-one setting. I've got one person presenting this alternative perspective, and there's a part of me that presents a conflicting perspective that I'm not worthy. And you're saying, no, Alex, you are worthy, or you're saying, what would it be like to consider worthiness if we're using a coaching approach? So that's maybe like a bit of an idea for me as a coachee there, an idea in the abstract, or something that there's an equal amount of distrust of. As well as the support. And then if we take it into a group setting, I've got this this physical memory or this anchor of several people recognizing it, or one person stating it as opinion and several people confirming it. That's much more solid for me.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's this whole piece around the feeling of belonging and what happens in the nervous system when it's like, wow, I'm accepted, not just for my genius and my skills and my power in the world and my work, but actually I am accepted and welcomed with my brokenness, with my fears, with my insecurity.
For having not in spite of vulnerability, but especially for having vulnerability.
Especially.
Yeah.
And we all know that feeling, right? When someone confides in us or someone we know says something big, often what comes is, it's actually love and care. Like it's like good emotions come when, like, it's giving other people something as well. So it's giving the other people a chance to connect to those things too. So I would say that's a real progression, is just widening it to like slightly bigger. That could be a really good next step. Just maybe say you've got 3 clients being like, let's do something all together.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, it's a really beautiful scene we've just imagined there. And in this case, where you bring, say, three clients together, putting you on the spot here, but what might the very loose top level session structure look like? Yeah, if we're saying maybe an hour, hour and a half, like what's like the rough breakdown of timings?
Mm,
We've maybe
good
got like
question.
an
I mean,
introduction.
yeah, okay. So I guess we could talk in a minute a bit more about the kinds of things that I do and I'm planning to do in that way, but because I'm often doing things outdoors with people, so I
Mm,
include that. But I guess that does connect because I really like working out how you can bring in some kind of dynamism,
mm,
whether it's something that involves moving around or doing something,
yeah.
or but we can talk about that. But I guess if you're going to plan something that's short, but you want it to be meaningful, it would be in some way the first part being, I mean, I have a lot of different systems and structures and patterns that I use to design things personally. One of those is, and I don't overtly use this, but one of them is the work of John Young and his piece on culture repair, and that's the 8 shields model, which
Mm,
you can look up. There's a great book called Coyote's Guide, which also talks about questioning and drawing out curiosity and these attributes of aliveness. But anyway, from that model, it would always begin in inspiration. So something that feels awakening, inspiring, and exciting. And it would begin there, whether that's a story or whether that's an
mhm,
exercise. And then it would be, I guess, drawing from another one, it would be the work or the training and the things I'm building, which I haven't spoken about yet, around Vision Quest and contemporary nature-based initiations and rites of passage. There's this, like, the the beginning would be, I guess, around setting intention in some way,
mhm,
or yeah. So there would be that piece in some way,
mhm.
and then there's this, what in that work you would call the threshold. So it's stepping into something that would be a bit different. And
Change.
that's where you might do an exercise or an activity or something to shake things up, or you might, yeah, you might. For me, you might, if you were doing something with 3 or 4 people you were coaching, you might send them off for a walk for 10
Yeah.
minutes with a question,
Mhm,
maybe. Or you might, in the kinds of things I do, you might go and get them to map out their life using the bushes and trees in an area.
mhm.
I did this recently with someone. I got him to cross the river and find and create, use the metaphor of the landscape to give me a tour of his
Nice.
life. So he went and chose a tree to be his family. He chose another tree to be his hobby around competitive running and sport,
Mhm,
and another tree to be around his work and his growth. And he looked at all the things on the tree and worked out why each tree was about that. And then he
mhm.
gave me this tour. So something that's taking you out of your normal mindset and giving you some kind of insight or new perspective. They're just my kinds of ideas. For you, it might be post-its, or it might be, who knows.
Yeah. No, I love the nature infusion into this work.
Yes, yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah.
I've been playing with that. And then to finish the sequence,
Please.
so you'd go into that kind of somewhere to step out into something different. And then you'd come back over, you could call it the metaphorical threshold, back to the here and now. And you'd look at, how do I integrate that? So
Mhm,
maybe that's sharing stories together. Maybe that's doing some journaling. Maybe
mhm,
that's sitting in pairs and listening to each other's, asking each other questions
mhm.
in, in whatever it looks like, but some way to land it back into my life and what I might do with that, how I might bring that into my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be the kind of the third piece.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And yeah, in that, there's some very clear links to parts of really typical coaching models. What's the inspiration? What's the goal? Like, where are we trying to get to? Like, what's happening now? Like, thinking in metaphors, trying to like bring in new perspectives that we can learn from, and like sharing, like having to conjugate our thoughts into words so that we develop our awareness, all really present in that. And I asked this question of like, what might a little like, draft of the agenda look like? Because I feel like so much of coaching and group work is a mystery, or coaches do it very differently, and it can be really difficult as someone who has maybe only worked one-to-one or just been trained in how to use coaching models in a one-to-one way to see how that can be used in a different way. And your examples and you know, I mean, people sharing with each other, sharing with a group, being witnessed by the group, prompting each other, feel like really nice ways that we're just in this moment, kind of, lifting the veil a bit, or looking behind the curtain.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I've been looking at how I've been recently going really outside the box with the coaching sessions I've done. In other words, saying that I don't have to keep them kind of 2D, they can almost be 3D. So instead of just saying, oh, they're coaching, and I don't say that my sessions are just coaching, because not that it's just coaching, there's so many different ways to do coaching, but I'll have one session with someone and hear something, and then instead of just waiting till the next session, I go away off. I'm starting to go away and create an experience like you would for a group. So, right, okay, this person is really working with this. So I might offer them, hey, do you want to do a session where we build a fire and we burn pieces of paper or logs to represent the things that are not helping anymore, or whatever. So we'll actually create an experience either together, or I'll create it for them.
Yeah.
So it's this fusion between coaching and almost facilitation, but on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah. You're doing the structural work to give them an experience within which these new ideas can sit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm noticing often out in nature or with some physical component, rather than it just being conversation based, there's also some physical component.
Physical, or sometimes if it's indoors, things like, I don't know if you know the clean space work, clean space, clean facilitation, clean space. Great, really interesting Kiwi guy. I can't remember his name right now, but he has some great questions and methodologies. But the idea, so one thing I might get someone to do is to create different places in their room that are about different things, and get them moving between those different places. And I guess what I'm trying to do often is to get below just the cerebral into the feeling and intuitive side as well.
Yeah.
So that, because there's more data to be found there. So that's often by standing up or visualizing. I use quite a lot of visualization too, getting people to imagine things, often nature-based things, but using metaphor. Because I want people to get below the normal brain patterns into maybe just to get below those normal patterns into different kinds of insight.
How can I feel this as well, or
How can
what's
I
the body
feel this?
tell me
Yeah,
about this idea?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's making me think of somatic coaching and how I hear somatic coaches talk about that work. And you said you've been really thinking outside of a box. Is there anything you've done that you'd feel comfortable sharing with our audience of like, what's the wildest thing? Or what was the most like left field, or like, oh, am I really doing this moment that you've had with that?
So I've started to incorporate one-to-one multi-day adventures into my long-term coaching journey. Because I asked myself at the beginning of this year, what do I feel most excited to do with people, individuals? And when I had this idea, it was almost felt naughty. Like, how could I possibly ask someone to pay me to go on an adventure with them to nature in a beautiful place? How could I do that? That's
Am I
outrageous.
allowed to do that?
Am I allowed to do that? Uh, Decided to see what happened if I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, that looked like going to stay in a 2-bedroom tree house for 2 days with one of my
Wow.
clients. Yeah, in a forest,
Mm-hmm.
and spending days kind of adventuring through the forest, sitting by fires, going barefoot in the stream. I mean, this person wanted to, yeah, they were, sort of science background. They wanted to experience something where it wasn't just their rational mind leading them,
Mm.
and they wanted to experience something operating and moving from, like your question at the beginning, moving from a different place, or like
Yeah.
moving through life with a different center of gravity from their usual patterns and ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And so we just did a lot around that. And for them, even putting their toes in the mud was an uncomfortable moment. So we did a lot of having these quite
Mm-hmm.
having experiences that they wouldn't. I'll never forget this moment. There was this slide in this property. In one corner of it, there's this a slide coming out of a treehouse, not the one we were staying in. And they were looking at it and they thought they couldn't go on it because they hadn't been given permission.
Mm.
And so the process was, well, what happens if you do, and what happens if you go in it kind of like head first or backwards. And so really, really playing with these
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
these long set stories, like I can't do things without being given permission to. Like,
Mm.
that's a huge belief to carry.
Mm.
And so we would play with that in the physical world.
Yeah.
Even going in a field that probably belonged to someone and watching the sunset.
Nice.
That kind of trespassing questing in and trespassing. This is a concept I play with a lot. How this idea that we can't really grow or develop if we don't kind of climb over the fences or the barriers or the borders or
Mm-hmm.
the lines that the
Break some
protection we've got.
rules.
We can't really do it. We can't really change the
Mm.
world as it is, or the systems as they are, if we
Mm.
don't if we don't disrupt and rebel and do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like these inner and outer metaphors of like, well, what if we actually go and jump over the fence?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I love that. And again, I'm really struck by that. You start this anecdote talking about giving yourself permission to do things
Yeah. Yeah.
differently. Um, yeah, and so often it's ourselves who we're the ultimate permission givers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so often it's ourselves who we are withholding permission from, ironically and tragically in some cases.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this work you've done with the Decelerator, which feels like in a similar way, helping people reconnect with nature, helping people slow down. That feels like that might be quite a hard sell to companies, especially in the corporate space.
Yeah.
How do we get those people on board with this? How are you selling
Mm.
this service there?
Yeah, this is a very, very good point. And I would say the current climate in, the organizational world is that most things that are not absolutely essential have been cut
Mm,
or are cut. So it's very, very tricky.
yeah.
I would say if you want to start doing things like away days or team days, the trick is to find something that they either are already doing or they need. So, for example, most organizations will do something at Christmas, or they will do something once a year where they get out the office.
Hmm.
And maybe your piece is tagged onto that in some way, or does become that. So it's finding something. We used to sell places on open programs for people to come for 3-4 days out the office, and it's become much harder in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think things have shifted a little bit.
Yeah. Capitalism.
And I guess also using coaching, using like really using this work to solve their problems. So with the decelerator work, or even with Letters to the Earth, using, like with Letters to the Earth, we're taking people into nature, but maybe they've got a problem to solve. So maybe they've got I'll give an example of a piece of work I did in January with their sustainability leaders for 3 days in Brussels, and they were trying to knuckle down on what their 2040 plan was. So they wanted to be net zero by 2040.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were working on their own designs and plans, but we came in to help them to think differently and do things different, like to think differently
Mm-hmm.
throughout the process of doing this design work. So we would be running sessions in between what the things they were doing, but we were also holding sessions in order to get them to think differently about the problems they were already trying to solve, and they would have been doing without us. So we're bringing in a different way of thinking around it, or different experiences to get them thinking differently.
Yeah, and that's a really clear use case for these companies. Like, send your employees of a particular type to us, and we'll help them think in the way that you're employing them to think best.
Yeah, but the tricky thing, and what was really interesting there, is it wasn't till the last day we got to really the center of the nut, because they were trying to add a whole new vision into their existing, I guess, like daily work plans or whatever. But then they were putting all of this extra work on top to meet this goal.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't till the last day that something shifted in the whole team around realizing that they had to rethink everything. They couldn't keep operating in the way they were operating, doing their normal day jobs and then adding this whole new plan. They actually had to kind of break down the current way of doing things, and it took 3 days
shift.
3 days to get there. With people saying, it took 3 days to get there. And I don't know, I would hope that us being there helped them to think about how differently it needed to be.
Yeah. So interesting. And in my head, this is paradigm shift. It's having to let go of old structures and frameworks that we cling to and build new ones, and that being work that we typically resist as long as possible as humans. And if we think about capitalism on a broad scale and think about impact on the planet, companies like resisting paradigm shift, or trying to hold on as long as possible to frameworks.
Yeah, and it won't be the bright individuals in the room. It will be what's kind of imposed by thousands of people within a structure that's got thousands of people within it. Often the people within the teams are like, they've got really good ideas, but it's this kind of a whole body of energy all creating this thing.
A collective shift in momentum, or subtle shifting of the zeitgeist, but then tips over something that was kind of leaning a little bit already. That kind of idea.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's stepping out. It's helping that, that's that subsection of the wider organization to step out of it, close the doors, be supported to get into a different mindset, and then to take it back out again.
Powerful. And talking about your one-to-one work, just before we started recording, we were also kind of talking about paradigm shift or phases of life, and how coaching can be really important around things like initiations, or moving from one stage or part of your life to another. Would you share where your one-to-one work that you envision in the future is going to be working in that area or exploring that?
Yeah, okay, great. So it kind of ties into the organizational work a bit too. I really like this idea of a developmental culture. So when we talk about the personal development, it's like, yes, great, we're having these personal growth experiences, but what if we stretch that idea to creating a culture where human development is centered? So imagine a corporation who recognize different life phases, and the fact that, or I mean, for me, I think it's a fact. I don't know if everyone will agree. The idea that different life phases have different tasks to fulfill, almost,
Different roles within your
different
wider
roles
life.
to play. I mean, okay, so you know, like a child, you could say that a child, what they bring to a community is this kind of effervescent joy and curiosity and energy, and they get the people out of the sort of stuck, boring, getting the job done, and they bring us into presence. That's their job in a way, right? And if they're happy and fulfilled, that's the job they're going to be doing. They're going to be the tricksters. They're going to be getting us laughing. They're going to be getting us looking at the bugs, right?
Yeah.
So that's their job. And then, you know, moving through the kind of adolescence, what could their task be? It's like that going inward and questioning life, like looking at the kind of the depths and the murkiness, and kind of challenging the status quo and saying like yes and no to things, and like working out who they are and what's the meaning of life. They're these kind of little philosophers if they're encouraged and able to be. That real deep questioning time of who am I, what is this life, and then moving into adulthood, it's like then it's from that questioning, it's moving into okay, now I'm starting to get a sense of who I might be and what I might give and bring, and now I'm going to move into the part of my life where I can actually serve and use my skills, attributes, qualities, and use those in service to the world, right? In our culture, the focus is on the human world. What can I do for the humans? Bill Plotkin, who's a philosopher and psychologist that I've been studied and been very inspired by, he would say that you don't really progress or grow into what he would call the generative adult, like a full adulthood, without in some way considering what the service, what the ways that we might be in service to not only the human world but the natural world. So finding what he calls your ecological niche, so your place in the human world but also in the more than human world or the natural world. So maybe that's doing your bit, you know, maybe that's your planting trees, maybe that's joining a conservation group, maybe that's becoming a gardener and making lots of spaces for bugs and butterflies. Who knows what it is for you? But there's this kind of hyper focus on the human element of being in service, or meaning and purpose being about finding your place in the human world. But what about if that also included more than just the human world? So that would be adulthood, would be really being in service to humans and beyond. And then it's moving into kind of elderhood, which would be almost this more introverted side again, or like letting the world come to you rather than being out there and going for it, having children and going to work and pioneering new ideas. It's no, I'm going to slow down, and actually life's going to start coming to me, and I'm going to be more of a settled person that can offer back. I can offer back my experience, stories, wisdom, and I can also listen and question and be of support to the people who are stepping into adulthood or who are there. So those would be that's one way of looking at those main life phases. But what if an organization actually saw that and incorporated that in, right? Who really coached and nurtured a young adult to feeling like they had their place in the system, could really be who they were there to be, who were actively looking for roles to help that person thrive. Imagine if they had mentorship from the kind of 50, 60-year-olds in the organization, like really actively and intentionally, you know. And what if, as people were transitioning from their main body of their career and in those leadership roles into kind of an eldership role, they were really recognized and honored for everything they've given and everything they've done. I wonder if they were really honored and recognized, whether they would find it easier to give up power.
Wow. Which is somewhat of a topical problem in the world at the moment. Relinquishing,
Yeah.
or well, not relinquishing, but gifting.
Handing it over.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. Imagine that. So I have this sense, I don't know, some
Uh-huh.
of the exercises I do with groups often, especially if it's the end of a project. I did this with the people who led the global vaccine rollout, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave each other medals to they kind of watched each other's behavior over a few days, and then they
Mm-hmm.
drew and painted each other medals and gifted each other medals for the work
Uh-huh.
they'd done over these 2 years. And
Wow.
how, the tears and the cracking
Recognition,
open,
being witnessed.
being witnessed. Yeah.
Wow.
And imagine if each human had that witnessing and honoring, both in the family and also in their communities, but also in the world of work.
Mm.
There's this lovely practice that someone shared with me, is to always have a Prosecco bottle or a champagne bottle or a Prosecco if you don't drink, or juice, fizzy juice. And you always have this, and maybe some party poppers, and you have this box in your
Celebrate.
office. You have this box so that when someone suddenly finds out that they've got a new niece, or that that they've been proposed to yesterday or whatever, you just whack the box out and you're ready there. You're ready to honor them. I'm ready for it.
Okay, wow.
Imagine a world like that.
Yeah, and I mean, you said imagine a company, and I'm imagining your company or your coaching or this one-to-one coaching you're doing, where you are shifting through those roles as, like, maybe sometimes you're presenting the youngster who's asking someone to look at the bug and, like, wow, what if we looked at him this way, or like isn't, and sometimes you're the elder and you might be sharing a piece of wisdom from your own life, or sometimes you might be producing, like, and that you might be wearing these many faces or bringing ideas of this kind of this many faceted community, or in my mind it comes up as it takes a village, and definitely using those different kind of masks or skill sets to help the person grow.
Like, yeah, I guess recognizing all of those different attributes or ways of being, and being able to draw from them as appropriate and as needed. Yeah.
Amazing. And we'll wrap up our episode there. Amelia, thanks so much for coming on and talking to us about organizational coaching, about leadership coaching, about letters to the earth in a very specific way, that this organization you work with, and in a much more general way, and that gap between the human world and the more than human world. So insightful to hear you talking about your own coaching and your own, how you're structuring that, and what your visions are and what you've done there. It's been a real treat.
Oh, Alex, what a treat to talk to you too. Thank you so much. You do have a gift for bringing out the good stories.
Great. All Amelia's information will be in the episode bio. Get involved, and look forward to seeing what comes next, Amelia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Podventures on the Mo podcast. I am Kate, your co-host alongside Alex. If, after listening to today's episode, you feel compelled to share your story, please email info@mofoundation.com. We would love to hear your story and have you here as a guest on the podcast. If you have been enjoying the Mo podcast, please do leave a review. It helps the team so much understand what you want to hear more of, what type of guest speakers you enjoy. If you want to recommend a guest speaker who you think we should be talking to, let us know. We will endeavour to feature them. If you love Mo so much that you don't ever want to miss an update, subscribe to our channel so that you will be notified every time a new episode comes out and you won't miss a thing. That's all from us today. See you next time.